Never stood beneath a sky full of fireworks. Never carved our names into some ancient piece of earth. No dramatic declarations written across the stars above. Just two people sitting at a kitchen table, talking quietly about love. You reached across and took my hand while evening settled through the room, and said, I don't think forever happens all at once. I smiled and asked what you meant. You said, I think it's something people choose. Not one giant promise, not one perfect day, just 1,000 little decisions made the same way. So let's grow old on purpose. Let's choose each other every ordinary Tuesday night, when the dishes need washing and neither of us feels particularly bright. Let's choose each other in the checkout lines, in morning traffic and overtime, and all the moments nobody writes songs about. Because love isn't built in a single vow, it's built right here and now. Growing old on purpose. There'll be seasons when we're tired, weeks when life moves way too fast, days when conversations happen somewhere between the chores and taking out the trash. The photographs upon the wall will slowly multiply. Our favorite mugs will chip a little more as years go by, and someday silver threads will find their way into our hair, like quiet proof of all the years we chose to stay there. Not because it was easy, not because we had to, because every day we'd wake up and want to. So let's grow old on purpose. Let's choose each other every ordinary Tuesday night, when the laundry's overflowing and we're arguing about whose turn it is to drive. Let's choose each other after long hard days, when patience feels a mile away, in all the little spaces where real love lives. Because forever isn't something that you get, it's something that you give. Growing old on purpose. I used to think love was a finish line, a place you finally reached one day. Now I think it's more like tending a garden, returning again and again, watering what matters, even when nobody's watching, even when the flowers aren't blooming yet, trusting they'll come back, because they always do. One Tuesday becomes another, then another after that, years quietly stacking like books upon a shelf, until one day you look around and realize you've built an entire life out of choosing someone else before yourself. So let's grow old on purpose. Let's keep choosing each other through every changing year, through the wrinkles and the gray skies, through the laughter and the tears. Let's choose each other over and over until it becomes second nature, like sunlight finding windows in the morning, like rivers finding oceans, like your hand finding mine. Let's choose each other when we're 25 and when we're 82. Let's keep making the same beautiful decision until the very end. And even then, if I had another lifetime to live, I'd still spend it choosing you again. Tomorrow's Tuesday, the coffee will need making, the bills will need paying, the dog will probably bark at nothing. And somewhere between all those ordinary things, I'll look across the room and quietly choose you again, just like I always do. We missed a turn somewhere outside a little town. The GPS kept loading circles, then completely shut down. One bar signal disappeared beyond the county line, leaving only headlights and a ribbon road unwinding through the night. You laughed and folded up the map across your knees, said maybe getting lost isn't the worst thing it could be. The radio found static where our favorite station died, and somehow neither one of us seemed to mind. The stars grew brighter, the road grew long, and for the first time all day, nothing felt rushed at all. Driving through midnight, windows down, summer air drifting in, no destination pulling at our sleeves, just the hum of the tires in your hand, resting close to me. We were supposed to be somewhere else, but somewhere along those forgotten roads, we found something better. Driving through midnight, we found a diner glowing softly near a blinking traffic light. The waitress said the coffee's free if you're traveling through tonight. A jukebox played old love songs nobody had chosen for years, and we stayed longer than we planned, talking over pie and souvenirs. You told me stories from before I knew your name, the dreams you almost gave up on, the reasons that you stayed. And with every mile behind us, you somehow felt closer than before. The highway stretched forever, the dashboard painted gold, and every conversation uncovered something new. Driving through midnight, windows down, summer air drifting in, no destination pulling at our sleeves, just the hum of the tires in your hand, resting close to me. We were supposed to be somewhere else, but somewhere along those forgotten roads, we found something better. Driving through midnight, around 2 in the morning, we parked beside a hill, overlooking sleepy towns and distant porch lights still. The world felt paused somehow, like time forgot to move. And in that quiet moment, there was nothing left to prove. You leaned your head against my shoulder, the stars hanging low above, and I realize some journeys are really about love. Not the postcards, not the landmarks, not the places people plan to see, but the unexpected turns that become your favorite memories. Driving through midnight with nowhere left where needed to be, the road unfolding gently like a story underneath. Every wrong turn became a gift, every mile another piece of a night we talk about for years. We never reached the destination, at least not the one we planned, but somewhere between the silence and the headlights, between the back roads and the stars, I found a place that felt like home, right there beside me. Driving through midnight, the sun began to rise behind the fields, painting the horizon gold and blue. You asked if we should finally figure out where we were. I smiled and shook my head, because for the first time all night, I already knew. Our first date ended sometime after 10. The cafe chairs were stacked, they wanted us to leave then. We stood outside beneath the yellow streetlight glow. Neither one of us seemed ready yet to go. You checked the time and smiled, a little shy, said I should probably head home now tonight. Then after taking half a step away from me, you turned around and laughed and said, 5 more minutes. 5 became 15, 15 became an hour, and somewhere in the middle of that sidewalk conversation, you started changing everything. 5 more minutes, that's how our story goes. Always finding reasons not to let the moment close. One more song, one more street, one more chance for you and me to stay inside a little piece of time we've made. Funny how a lifetime starts with 2 hearts never wanting to part, and asking for 5 more minutes. Then came the nightly phone calls after work, the kind that always started with, how was your world? We talk until the batteries began running low, until the clock insisted we should probably let go. You'd say, okay, I really need to sleep. I'd say, me too, we both agree completely. Then right before hanging up, one of us would always speak, just 5 more minutes. And suddenly another half hour disappeared. 5 more minutes, that's how our story goes. Always finding reasons not to let the moment close. One more laugh, one more dream, one more memory in between the little things that slowly build a life together. Funny how for asking for 5 more minutes. I remember train station goodbyes, your suitcase by your side, the conductor calling passengers aboard. You'd hug me one last time, then one more after that, trying to stretch the seconds a little more. 5 more minutes on the platform, 5 more minutes at the gate, as if love could gently bargain with the hands upon a clock face. Maybe it can, because somehow it did. Years later now, the train rides are gone, the phone calls became shared rooms, the distance became a hallway, and your side of the bed. Sunday morning sunlight fills the room, the alarm clock sings its usual tune. I reach to turn it off and start the day, but before I move, I hear you softly say, 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes, still my favorite phrase. After all these years, it hasn't changed. From first date nights to sleepy eyes, from long goodbyes to quiet sunrise skies, it's always meant the same thing deep inside. I love this moment, and I don't want it to end. One more hug, one more kiss, one more second living like this. If happiness could choose a language of its own, I think it'd sound like you, whispering low. 5 more minutes. The funny thing is, we never once stopped at 5, and I'm glad we didn't, because all those extra minutes added up to a life. And every morning when you pull the blanket close and ask for 5 more minutes, I still say yes. I still say yes. I've had apartment keys from cities I can't hardly recall, names of streets and neighborhoods pinned upon old moving boxes on the wall. A dozen different windows with a dozen different views, but every room felt temporary until I walked in with you. There was a studio in Denver with a leaking kitchen sink, a tiny place in Portland where the rain would never quit, and a high-rise near the harbor where the ferries crossed at dawn. I remember all the buildings, but you're the thing I remember most. I spent years thinking home was something you could find somewhere on a map. Turns out I was looking in the wrong place all that time. 'Cause home isn't a place, it isn't bricks or painted walls, it isn't any city name I've ever had to call my own. It's your coffee mug beside the sink, your jacket hanging by the door, the way an unfamiliar room feels warm the moment you walk in. I've crossed 1,000 miles and learned one simple truth: isn't a place, it's you. We unpacked our lives in cardboard boxes every year or two, learning where the grocery stores and shortcuts all were new. You put photographs on shelves before the furniture was done, and somehow every empty space immediately became one. You'd open all the curtains, let the sunlight find its way, fill the rooms with laughter and your favorite records playing. And before I knew it, another strange address felt less alone. Funny how four walls can change when the right person stands inside them. 'Cause home isn't a place, it isn't bricks or painted walls, it isn't any city name I've ever had to call my own. It's your coffee mug beside the sink, your jacket hanging by the door, the way an unfamiliar room feels warm the moment you walk in. I've crossed 1,000 miles and learned one simple truth: home isn't a place, it's you. Maybe someday we'll stop moving, find a little house and stay a while, plant a garden, paint the porch, and watch the seasons change in one place. But even then, it won't be the house that matters, because I've already learned what makes a home. A home, it's movie nights on borrowed couches, take-out dinners on the floor, shared blankets and half-unpacked living rooms. It's your hand reaching for mine in places neither of us knows, and somehow making them familiar. 'Cause home isn't a place, it isn't found in zip codes or skylines, it isn't where the highway ends or where your name appears on mail. It's waking up and seeing you, no matter what the view outside, knowing that tomorrow feels a little easier because you're there. The world can keep on changing, the roads can take us anywhere, as long as you're beside me, I'll never be lost. Because home isn't a place, home isn't a city, home isn't a destination, home is the person who makes every destination feel like one. We've lived in 7 different apartments, 3 different cities, and more neighborhoods than I can count. But when people ask where home is, I never hesitate anymore. I just look at you and smile. I used to carry a quarter everywhere I'd go, collecting little pieces of places I'd never known. Subway doors in Paris, ocean waves along the coast, street musicians playing songs nobody wrote down most, train announcements in languages I couldn't understand, cathedrals cathedrals full of echoes drifting through distant lands. I thought if I could save the sounds, I'd somehow save the moments too. So I filled up hard drives with passing days, trying to hold on to time before it slipped away. But the only recording I still play back is the sound of your laugh, ringing through a crowded station hall, somewhere between a missed train and a joke I can't recall. The world kept moving all around, suitcases rolling, voices loud, yet somehow your laughter rose above all that. And years later it's the only sound I couldn't bring myself to delete. We were young and traveling with maps folded wrong, getting lost so often it eventually became part of the fun. The departure board kept changing every few minutes or so, and we had nowhere urgent left to go. You laugh because I bought the wrong tickets again, or maybe because I tried explaining directions with my hands. The reason doesn't matter now, only the moment does. Funny how memory works that way. The details fade, but the feeling remains. And the only recording I still play back is the sound of your laugh, bouncing off the station walls, bright enough to turn a random afternoon into something unforgettable. The trains have long since left those tracks. The years have carried us far past that. But whenever life gets quiet enough, I press play, and there you are again. I've deleted the city traffic, the rainfall on hotel roofs, the market crowds and ferry horns, and every sound I thought I'd lose, because none of them can take me back the way that recording does. 3 seconds of your laughter, and suddenly I'm standing there beside you once more. Sometimes I listen with my eyes closed, and I can still picture everything. The sunlight through the station windows, the backpack hanging from your shoulder, the way you bend forward when you laugh too hard, as if joy itself was too much to carry. And the only recording I still play back is the sound of your laugh, not because it's rare, but because it sounds like every good thing I ever knew. It sounds like wrong turns becoming memories, like ordinary days becoming stories, like finding home in another person before you even realize it. The world gave me thousands of sounds to keep, but after all these years, if I could save only one, I'd choose that afternoon again. That station, that moment, that laugh. The file name was something forgettable, nothing special, at least that's what I thought, until I listened closer and found my favorite memory hiding in the background. The forecast said it might arrive tonight, but neither one of always was right. We grew up where December meant a little colder rain, not skies that painted rooftops white overnight. You stood beside the window with a cup of tea, pointing at the darkness saying, wait, is that what I think it is? Tiny pieces drifting slowly through the streetlight glow, like the sky was letting go of something beautiful. We looked at each other, then back at the sky, like two kids discovering magic for the first time. It was our first snow together, falling softly through the night, turning ordinary streets into a world of white. We ran outside without our gloves, laughing like we'd never grown up, trying to catch snowflakes before they disappear. And I swear the whole world felt brand new, because everything was, and so were we. You held out your hands and watched them melt away, as if winter was a secret only the sky could explain. You kept asking questions nobody really knew, like why every snowflake looked a little different than the last. We left footprints through the park where no footprints had been before. The trees stood still beneath their crystal coats, and every branch looked like it belonged inside a storybook. The city felt quieter, the night somehow brighter, and every little thing seemed worth remembering. It was our first snow together, falling softly through the night, turning ordinary streets into a world of white. We ran outside without our gloves, laughing like we'd never grown up, trying to catch snowflakes before they disappear. And I swear the whole world felt brand new, because everything was, and so were we. Years from now there'll be bigger moments, places we'll go and things we'll see, but I don't know if anything will ever quite compare to standing there beneath a sky of drifting white, watching wonder arrive at exactly the same time for both of us. You made a tiny snowman on a park bench that barely lasted half an hour, and somehow that made it even better, because some moments aren't meant to stay forever. They're meant to be remembered forever instead. It was our first snow together, floating gently from above, like the sky itself was teaching us about love. Not the grand and noisy kind, but the kind you slowly find in shared glances and cold hands held tight. The kind that turns a simple night into a memory you'll carry all your life. And every winter after that, whenever fall, I'll think of how you smiled the first time you saw it all. The snow kept falling long after midnight, covering the streets, the cars, the town. But my favorite thing it touched was the look upon your face when you whispered, "It's even prettier than I imagined." And honestly, so are you. I moved into apartment 23 with secondhand furniture and a view of city streets. A little balcony overlooking rows of glowing windows at night. Thousands of strangers living separate lives. Then one evening, while watering my plants, I noticed someone waving from a building across the way. A handwritten sign held high above the rail. It simply said, "Nice sunset today." I laughed and grabbed a notebook from inside, wrote back, "Best one this month." And somehow that was enough. Balcony lights shining through the city night, like little stars suspended in apartment skies. We wrote our stories line by line across the distance every night, without a single spoken word between us. Funny how a heart can know someone it has never held before, just from balcony lights. Soon it became our evening routine. You'd hold up questions, I'd answer in between. Pages filled with terrible jokes and observations of the rain. Tiny conversations floating through the urban haze. You told me you loved old records and mystery books. I told you I burned every meal I ever cooked. You sketched the skyline while I played guitar at 10. And somehow we became part of each other's days. The city carried millions of lights below, but every night I searched for only one. Balcony lights shining through the city night, like little stars suspended in apartment skies. We wrote our stories line by line across the distance every night, without a single spoken word between us. Funny how a heart can know someone it has never held before, just from balcony lights. Then winter came and brought the early dark. One evening your balcony stayed empty past the hour you'd usually start. No lamp glowing by the rail, no notebook held against the night. And I learned something about missing someone before I'd ever met them. I spent the whole evening staring across the street, waiting for your light. Then near midnight it appeared, a sign that simply read, "Sorry, long day." I've never smiled so fast in my life. Weeks turned into months, questions turned to dreams, dreams turned into secrets, and somewhere in between, you stopped feeling like a stranger. Find balcony lights shining through the city night, guiding me home more than any street below. Every page and every sign built a bridge across the sky, until the distance didn't feel so far anymore. Funny how a heart can grow through simple things and small hellos, written in the dark by balcony lights. One spring evening, you held up a final note. Coffee tomorrow, ground floor cafe noon. I stared at it for nearly a minute, then wrote back, I've been waiting months to say yes. The next night our balconies were empty, but the cafe lights were on. And for the first time, we didn't need signs anymore. The first thing that I noticed wasn't your smile or your eyes. It wasn't how the sunlight seemed to find you every time. It was the way you stopped one morning on a crowded city street to help an old man carry groceries in the heat. You never made a story of it, never waited for applause, just brushed it off and kept on walking, like kindness was as natural as breathing was. And I don't think you even realize how much of yourself you leave behind in the lives you quietly brighten. You've got a quiet kind of beautiful, the kind that doesn't ask to be seen, not written in the spotlight or the cover of a magazine. It's in the little things you do when nobody's watching you, the way you make the whole world softer without meaning to. And every day I find another reason why it's true. You've got a quiet kind of beautiful. There's a little orange stray cat living near your office door. You always keep a bag of treats tucked in your purse for him and more. You know his favorite hiding places and the way he likes to eat. Yet somehow you've never mentioned it to anybody but me. Last winter when the weather turned and snow arrived before its time, you left scarves on park benches with handwritten notes that simply read, "Stay warm tonight." You never sign your name below, you never need the credit. You just hope somebody finds it. You've got a quiet kind of beautiful, the kind that doesn't ask to be seen, not written in the spotlight or the cover of a magazine. It's in the little every day I find another reason why it's true. You've got a quiet kind of beautiful. I used to think that love would ride like fireworks lighting up the sky, something loud and unforgettable, but you taught me differently. Sometimes love looks like extra food packed for a friend, remembering birthdays everyone else forgets, holding doors open, leaving flowers anonymously, and caring for people who may never know your name. The world notices the brightest stars, the loudest voices in the room, but I've learned some of the most beautiful things happen quietly, like you. You've got a quiet kind of beautiful, the kind that changes lives unseen, like sunlight through a window or roots beneath the trees. It's in the way you love this world without asking for return, the way your heart keeps giving even when nobody learns. And if anyone should ask me what first made me fall for you, it wasn't one grand moment, it wasn't something new. It was 1,000 little acts of kindness woven through your days, until one day I looked at you and realized that's exactly why I stayed. Tonight you'll probably do something thoughtful again, and never tell a soul about it, except maybe me. And I'll keep falling in love with you for all the reasons nobody else sees. You left it on my coffee table after Sunday afternoon, a worn-out paperback with folded corners and the faded cover too. I thought I'd bring it back the next time that we met, but curiosity convinced me to read a little first. The story started slowly, just a chapter every night, until I noticed tiny pencil marks along the sides, a question by a paragraph, a joke beside a line, and suddenly there were two stories intertwined. One was written by the author, the other one by you, and somehow yours became my favorite to get through. In the notes between the pages, in the words you left behind, I met the way you saw the world before I ever knew your eyes. You laughed at all the right parts, you underlined the hopeful lines, and somewhere in those handwritten thoughts, I started falling quietly for the girl inside the margins, long before she became mine. You'd write things like, this character reminds me of my dad, or I'd probably make the same mistake if I had the chance. A little heart beside a sentence about learning how to stay. A tiny wow beside a passage that somehow changed your day. The more I read, the more I felt like we were talking there. Across the chapters and the weeks, through graphite and paper, you turned every page into a window of your mind. And I found myself lingering a little longer every time. The plot kept moving forward, but I hardly seemed to care. I was learning who you were between the chapters there. In the notes between the pages, in the words you left behind, I met the way you saw the world before I ever knew your eyes. You left it all the right parts, you underlined the hopeful lines, and somewhere in those handwritten thoughts, I started falling quietly for the girl inside the margins, long before she became mine. Then near the final chapter, on a page worn soft with age, you wrote, I love stories where people find each other late. Because sometimes the best things take their time. I must have read that sentence 20 times and smiled every single one, because by then I already knew you were becoming one. When I finally gave the novel back, you asked me, how was it? I almost said, I barely remember what the book was about. Because the truth was, I spent most of it reading you. In the notes between the pages, in the pencil marks and lines, I discovered little pieces of a heart that felt like mine. The way you'd notice beauty, the way you'd always choose the light, the way you'd find meaning in the smallest things and hold them close at night. The author wrote a lovely story, but my favorite one to find was hidden in the margins, waiting there the whole time. That old paperback still sits upon our shelf, its pages yellowed by the years. Sometimes I open it and smile at the first note that started everything. A tiny sentence in the corner, written in your handwriting without knowing it. You wrote your way into my heart. You walked into the cafe on a rainy afternoon, holding an umbrella and a nervous smile too. I got there 20 minutes early, just in case, and spent the whole time rehearsing what I'd say. You ordered vanilla latte, extra foam on top. I got a plain black coffee, 'cause I thought it looked more grown up. We talked about our favorite songs and places we'd never seen, and And somehow 3 whole hours disappeared between. Funny how some stories start with 2 strangers and a table for 2. 2 cups of coffee sitting side by side, watching little moments turn into a life. From first date conversations to dreams we drew at night, the years kept changing everything except the way I looked at you. And somehow every chapter starts the same, with 2 cups of coffee. A few months later I'd already learned your order by heart. You'd steal a sip of mine and wrinkle up your nose at how bitter it was. The barista started greeting us before we'd even speak, like she knew we'd be back again the following week. We filled notebooks with plans we couldn't yet afford, tiny apartments, future dogs, and hardwood floors. The coffee got colder while our conversations grew, and every dream somehow included you. Funny how forever starts as a collection of ordinary days. 2 cups of coffee sitting side by side, watching little moments turn into a life. From first date conversations to dreams we drew at night, the years kept changing everything except the way I looked at you. And somehow every chapter starts the same, with 2 cups of coffee. Now there's a little kitchen with sunlight on the tiles, a sleepy golden retriever and photographs piled high. The cafe still exists downtown, but these days we mostly stay making coffee in our own familiar way. You switched to caramel years ago. I finally learned cream isn't so bad, and every morning without trying I pour your cup exactly how you like it before you even ask. Some people measure love in grand adventures and diamonds, destinations, and expensive things, but I measure it differently in knowing how many sugars you take without having to think. 2 cups of coffee steaming in the morning light beside a window where the years have drifted by. The first one tasted nervous, this one tastes like home, and every sip carries 1,000 memories. From rainy afternoons to quiet Sunday rooms, from awkward introductions to a life that's fully grown. The drinks kept changing over time, but the best part never did. It's always been you across from me, holding your cup and smiling. Tomorrow morning I'll wake before the sun, walk into the kitchen and make 2 cups of coffee, just like I